Off by dropping the pad on the horse's back like so. This should eventually leave us a large selection of straps at the back. The large strap you can see is called a breeching. What it is in reality is our brake system. When the shafts are fixed to this and the wagon rolls forward, that will simply jam against their backside. Their backside is our brakes. When we drive wagons, we do look for one thing, large backsides. The bigger they are, the better your brakes will be. Some of you would do quite well, really, but then sure if it's a computerised ABS. The other strap we have at the back is called a cripper, depending where you come from. The idea is under the tail to stop the harness being pushed forward. Some horses like it, some don't. This one we don't really worry. We then pull the pads forward, done up on a girth similar to a saddle, and hopefully what look like a load of straps is starting to make a bit of sense. Next bit of kits and collar, here's a driving one. Anyone want to feel the weight of one? We'll get you a Shetland. Not ridiculously heavy, but it's heavy enough. It's made of leather, stuffed full of straw. Frame on the outside is called the Haines. Off the Haines you gain the power. If we were to stand here all day going on about this, we cannot make it clear enough. That is the one piece of kit you'll do the most damage to the horse with, collar injury. Collar injury one, you'll slice them open straight across there, and once they're cut, they're in big trouble. The best comparison one can give you is a boxer. Boxer goes in the ring, right hammering round the eyes, they open up, Henry Cooper springs to mind. A few months later, of course, it's all healed up, he's looking very pretty, back in the ring. Another thumping, wide open again. Scar tissue, it's exactly the same with these. Once you cut your horse, you've done the damage. You can heal it up for months, but a few weeks of collar going on, it tends to open. It must be avoided. The reasons, ill-fitting harness. Show harness is much better off on the cabinets than it is on the horses. It's fine for a few days at a show, lovely, but it's no good for everyday work. Too thin, too hard, too brittle. Cheap and nasty harness, you get what you pay for. But we are hoping today that one of you are dear enough to take up today's special offer. Buy one horse and get several free. I will take part exchange dogs, cars, anything but children. On the basis you do take a horse home today, you're going to have a collar made. And to have the collars made, of course, you have to measure. Where? Where'd you measure for a collar? Oh, make some That's about the best effort we are able to do. Right, what we're going to do is show you a very old horseman's trick that not many people know. Before that, one other thing. I do take it you've all heard the phrase horse whispering. We are not going into the pros and cons of that system, but what we will do is tell you where the phrase came from. Strangely enough, it's got nothing to do with talking to horses. The phrase horse whispering was based on apprenticeships. In the old days, you did a proper apprenticeship. First 6 months, you sweep the floor, you make the tea, everyone generally shouts at you. Any good after that, they might take you on. 5 years down the line, still any good, they would start to pass down some of the trade, trick secrets, whatever you want to call it. The phrase horse whispering came about because that information was whispered down. From the horse master to the apprentice, kept it absent. Not broadcast to every Tom, Dick and Harry. One thing they would have taught you, how to measure the collars. You measure their legs. You take a rope, you go around the widest point of the foreleg and pull it tight. That distance you get, 26 inches, whatever, will always be the internal size of the collars you require. It never fails. Only 15 years, they've never telling me about it, but never mind. If you take one piece of information home today about horses, just one line. You think it ought to be, they are creatures of routine. They love routine, but it drives you up the pole. They don't like changing fields, times, jobs, stables, anything. We believe it gives them security because they are flight creatures. Uno was brought up on a split collar, so that's what we're going to use today. This is in fact an Amish system from America. We tend to use a great deal of Amish harness now. If we use a split collar, we have to drop the Haines on separately, which of course we will. Next bit of kit, so final, here's a driving one.
Von Amish people aus Amerika. Die Idee, das so drum zu klappen, weißt
They
du?
work well, they're not foolproof, you can get caught big time. Horse can hear noise from the side, cannot see what's creating it, they can panic just the same. We believe they're designed for battle. Anyone here that knows the slightest thing about horses, another big bunch of wusses, scared of a dustbin liner blowing up the road. And that is of course because they're flight creatures. See something don't like, not sure, not happy about it, the natural reaction is to turn and run. Bearing that in mind, we spent years pondering, how did they get them into battle then? We know most of it was in fact repetitive training. They brainwashed the horses. Day after day after day, they just kept charging horses and lines of men, just like you are now. As the horse hit the line, the men just parted. They allowed the horses to run straight through. The horse became convinced that's what's going to happen. On the day, of course, it didn't. The men stood firm with the pikes. Once they managed to break the pike lines, we believe that's where the blinkers came in. In fact, they used to come round a lot further. The idea was to try and blind the horses from the chaos of battle. We know they stuffed their ears with rags to stop the noise, otherwise they'd have probably had the common sense to turn around and leg it in the other direction. Anyone here that's ever suffered the joy of trying to get a horse in a horse box that's scared of the idea will well appreciate the issues of trying to stick it into battle. It's totally against their nature. The bit we're using today, Liverpool driving bit, one bar, interesting parts, a piece at the side. That's where your reins and lines go. Hit the top and pull it. There is very little leverage. The further you run the rail, the more forward you can gain the horse's balance. When you see the horses working, you take a sneaky look where the lines are. At the top, spot on quality. The further it goes down, the bigger your problem's going to be. Do not apply that logic to one you're about to purchase from a dealer. It won't make any odds. If he's determined to offload the world's worst donkey, they'll still stick it at the top and discreetly pull it a whole lot harder. It's far too much of a giveaway. If it goes in the horse's mouth, it goes on the tongue behind the teeth. They say have it far enough back to make them smile, but not like a Cheshire cat. Next piece, well, very expensive and highly complex equipment is, of course, the power steering system. As one can see, I've wasted no money here today on the lot. Today we are using plough line. We could just as easily use reins. We prefer line. It doesn't slip in your hand in the wet like leather does. Reins and lines go through what we call terrets, one on the pad, one on the collar. We come down onto the bit. Lots of people tend to think we drive these horses through the rein and line. It's not totally true. If you stand there for just a moment, consider the size of the line, compare with the size of the horse, I'm sure you'll reach a different conclusion. This horse decides he wants to gallop off right now to say Bournemouth Football. You can all grab their shore. We'll have a very exciting journey heading towards Bournemouth Football. It's rather like water skiing on land, to be honest. This is part of the system. The parts are simple. Training the horse, routine of the horse, voice command, relationship with the horse. Put it all together, it works. This on its own, little more than a token gesture. We'll now drop the lines up through the top terret. This means we can now move horse on without tripping us or horse over. Finally, we add the bling. It's amazing what it can start up with a bit of bling. Some of you would know about that anyway. Right, anyone interested, follow us round, we'll show you how it goes in the wagon. Right, trying to be a bit enthusiastic today. I do apologise if it's Suffolk, it's the best I can do. If you want to push on the back end, you can speed this up massively. Might wash yourself. Back from the Grand National in 1976. That's how we get there.
I lived in the caravan. I didn't know it was going to be so much of that.
There is no such thing as a bomb-proof horse. Bomb-proof means you haven't found the problem yet. This is a very good horse, but he has one issue. I don't like backing into the wagons much. We are cheating, but it makes life easier. Shafts on the wagons after steering as the horse goes left and right, pushes shaft, steers the wagon. We now have to hitch them in. To do that, we use pump chain. We have the power, we therefore need the brakes. They go in exactly the same way. Finally, we turn the chain over the top to support the shafts. Hence why it's called the chain pad system. This traditional harness that would have been used for centuries. Just before we start the wagon rides, one last thing, if you ever do take one on the road, 2 tips, 2 things you must take with you, obviously apart from horse and wagon. First one, fancy item, It all goes pear-shaped, you have an accident, you turn it over, you put it in the ditch or whatever, you leap out and start shooting the harness. No odds at the end of the corporal will eventually become the horse. So after those shafts on its side, kicking and rearing, trying to get themselves out, and you get badly injured, you're not killed. In fact, you've now got it chopped up, it's not worth of harness, you're quite bad on the long walk home, there's little else you can do. And the final thing, the infamous orange Baylor twine. You see this glittering at the side. Never leave home without it, pocket those. I can assure you from my own stupidity, highly embarrassing to break a strap on a hill. Take the short horse out the shaft, sit them on the back, pull the whole back of it. Our Murphy's Law clearly states there will never be any Baylor twine to be found square mile when you actually want stuff. Have a bit with you. There you go. Wagon rides, this one obviously starts here, next out the yard 10 minutes, I'll work the wagon till 1. Get a break, you work till 2, with the final finish. You are now in the presence of a superstar. Make the most of it, we rarely get them around here, I can assure you. The only sad thing is you won't see any wonderful colour, Bergerons are in fact born jet black. Unlike one or two of you, they do tend to go a bit grey, a bit quicker than you lot. A year from now, be virtually white every time they change.